Howdy folks, a random video I decided to make today. Out here tinkering around in the shop, I found this old pressure plate from a Willys Jeep, and I'm gonna see if I can resurface this pressure plate. I have some ideas how I'm gonna do it. So basically I need to take these pins out. 1, 2, 3, take those pins out so I can get this pressure plate off of the, I don't know, spring housing, whatever you call that. So I gotta basically compress that. So I'll set it in the vise like so and clamp against the plate and the body of this thing. So now that finger is loose, I can pop the pin out as long as it's not rusted in, and do that 3 times, and I should be able to just take this plate right off of there. All right, a little PB blaster and a punch, and I got these out. I have these pins that sit in here like this. When you push on the clutch, this pin right here pushes against this little knob and pulls up on this, which is sticking out from the pressure plate itself, and pulls up on the pressure plate and compresses all these springs. So let's take all these springs off like that, and oops, things are falling on the floor. Clean all this off, clean up this bore here, and I think I should be able to grab this in my lathe. I think it'll just fit. So I don't know where I put my tripod, so I'm just gonna have to do this by hand. This is cool. They drilled holes in here to balance it. I probably should have kept track of what was what here. That might matter. Oh well. It's not going to spin more than 3,000 RPM anyway, so it's probably not going to hurt anything. Besides, this is purely experimental. Okay, I got this thing grabbed in the lathe here, albeit not super securely, but should be okay. I have it indicated as good as I can get it. It looks like it's worn like way out of true because it bounces around a lot. It's not like one side's in and the other side's out. It's all wavy, so that seems to be about as close as I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna crank this chuck a little tighter and fire up the lathe and see what I can do with it. This should be interesting. Hopefully it doesn't fly out of the chuck. That would be very interesting. All right, here we go. I got this thing slowed down a lot. Pull the power feed on. This was, for all intents and purposes, a junk flywheel, so I don't really care what happens to it. If this works, all the better, although it sounds like it's chattering, so maybe I need to see about remedying that. All right, just finished. We'll shut off the power feed, shut off the spindle, see how bad it chattered. Okay, yeah, we got a lot of chatter in there. See that? That's pretty bad. Well, it didn't clean up all the way anyway, so maybe I can wrap one of my brake lathe bands around it and stop some of that chatter and hit it again. You can still see staining from the friction disc. Interesting. I don't know what changing this thickness does for clutch performance either. I'm gonna guess it does something, but this is just me playing around on a Friday evening on my lathe just to see what I can do. And all in all, that's not too bad. Okay, I guess I should stop this and show you what I'm doing. I got this rubber anti-chatter band from my brake lathe strapped around here, and we're gonna hit this again for a little pass and see what happens. So there's that. I'll have to turn the power feed up faster. Sometimes a heavier tip load cuts down on chatter. Seems to be working so far. A little bit of chatter going. I also put this vice grip on there. Sometimes that helps with tool chatter. Anyway. Tough to tell if that's chatter or if that's just sound from it cleaning up the existing chatter. We'll find out in just a second here. Yeah, it still chattered quite a bit. Okay, well. Would that work? Maybe. Interesting to note that right outboard of the chuck jaws, there's no chatter. And in between the chuck jaws, where the material is left to free float, is where it chattered. No chatter, chatter. No chatter, chatter. Very interesting. Well, I'm going to pull this out of here. And actually, maybe I'll run over this with a Scotch-Brite pad on a die grinder just to clean it up a little bit. But anyway, there you go. Can be done. All right. Here it is. I got this thing clamped down. I used a couple C-clamps this time instead of the vise. I have it on the vise because my workbench is full. Let's see if I can... these clamps. There's one of them off. There's the other one off. And bingo. That would probably work. I don't know. Well, then again, I don't know if it would or not. It might slip because of the extra distance I took out of there. But I can lay a clutch disc on and find out. Okay, here's a old used friction disc that still has some life left in it. Let's flop that on top of there. Okay, here's a straight edge. Answer to my question from earlier, would this work in a Jeep? Answer is yes. So there's plenty of distance here, probably a solid 3/16, almost 1/4 inch, which means that these springs, when you have this pressure plate bolted down to a flywheel, will have plenty of pressure on this friction disc by my calculations, and this would most definitely work. And matter of fact, I would probably run it in my Jeep because it's making 75 horsepower and I doubt it would slip. This friction disc, on the other hand, is, well, it would probably clean up too, but it's got some rust stuck on it. Anyway, there's a video for today. I did run a Scotch-Brite disc over it to just sort of scuff it up a little bit. In all reality, spinning this thing up in the lathe and running a piece of sandpaper over it would have been perfectly fine, but it still would have been out of flat from getting hot however many times, depending on how someone drove it. So this way, theoretically, it's mostly flat, albeit that little bit of chatter isn't going to help my cause with it gripping. But anyway, am I saying you should try this? No. Am I saying that it's possible? Yep. Even with a little baby, what is this, a 10-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, I guess, lathe. So, yeah. Put this back on my welding table. So there you go. You can indeed take apart an old pressure plate and resurface it and put it back together. If you thought that was interesting, and if you made it this far, thank you. If you like stuff like that and want to see more random videos of random junk, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you whenever I make another video.